saying that comedians are the equivalent to modern day philosophers is like saying that kids who play Minecraft are the modern day architectural geniuses of our time. Do you know who the modern day philosophers are? Philosophers. That's who the modern day philosophers are. It's philosophers. That's who the modern day philosophers are. And there are philosophers. And if you don't know who philosophers are, then that's sort of your problem, right? And that's like the bigger issue I'm continually seeing when it comes to what comedians have become. I made a video previously talking about this archetype called the Fool King, and I drew a line from what the fool, or really what jesters used to be, and how this turned into the modern day comedian. In this video, we go deep. We talk about the Jester King, which is an archetype that I founded that discusses the comedian's role in contemporary society. There is a part 1 of this video where we focused on Joe Rogan. This is part 2. At the very end of part 1, I sit down with Paul Staub, and we have a discussion on the Nephilim and how the Nephilim possibly looked like clowns. And in part 2, we are talking about how these Nephilim spirits, these disembodied demons, are basically prevalent in the modern day comedy scene. If you want the full picture, go watch part 1. Part 1 ties into this video, which is part 2. Let's go. Oh, by the way, Paul Staubs is the person who invented the Nephilim look like clowns theory. He created it. So if you've heard of it, it's from Paul Staubs. Go to his channel. He is awesome. I've sat down with him several times. Those interviews are on the Patreon. And part 2 of this video, where we do talk more about the demonology side of this, is on the Patreon. Let's continue. Now, this journey took us through what comedy is sort of doing in society today. And I have further my thought on this. I have more ideas, so we're going to unpack them in this video. The last video, I touched a little bit on Joe Rogan. Okay, I kind of shared what I thought about Rogan, and I kind of talked about Theo and some of the other ones. But this one, we're going to talk about our buddy Bert Kreischer, because holy fucking shit, Bert Kreischer is out of control, and he perfectly encapsulates everything wrong with everything in 2025. This shot right here is so washed out for some reason today, but you know, whatever, we'll fix it. I don't know, but this one looks good today. Palantir cam, hello baby, face tracking. I'm trying to make this shot look good. And I talk with my hands. So people saying that when I do this, I'm making 666. What does this one mean? Do you know what this one means? I don't know. Maybe you should figure that one out. If your discernment is so bad that you seriously think I'm trying to flash 666 at you, especially when scripture says it's 616, you're lost. Okay, I can't help you. I can only do so much. Maybe I should start doing this. Maybe we'll just have an open hand one and we'll just do this. We'll just do that, right? And then I'll be called something else. Start with a different letter, two letters after it. Now, in this video, I talk about a lot of esoteric concepts, and I tie into this idea that comedians essentially are sort of ushering in the decay that we're seeing in society in this like very light way. They're making light of the heaviness that is reality. And I compared it to several different esoteric like forms of thought and ways of thinking, one of which was an alchemical one, alchemy. I broke down the 4 various types of alchemy and all this other stuff. And today, what we're going to be talking about is something a little bit different, because I really do think that this idea that comedians being so mainstream in the last 10 years is a part of something greater, because what is happening has happened before, and it's so obvious, and the people who can't see it, I feel like they don't have a good gauge of history, or they're just not seeking enough. They're not interested in reality enough, in truth enough to see it, right? The beauty about the people who are interested in this channel is you guys do have a great idea of history. You do understand and see what's going on, and you do see the wider array of problems that are constantly arising. And I feel like comedy really has been a Trojan horse for decadence. I feel like it really has helped to usher in, not ushering in and making these things normal, right? But making light of decadence and changing the normal citizens, quote unquote citizens, ideas of what decadence truly is. And it has become this amorphous glob of what is really good and what is really bad. And it's so funny because I was a massive comedy fan the last 10 years, right? Like I got into This Is Not Happening show by Ari Shaffir when he was the host of it before he wasn't. I was super into that show and I listened to every podcast. I was super into Joe Rogan. I was super into all that stuff. And it really got mainstreamed. And I remember when I first started listening to it, a lot of the jokes that were more sexual in nature or more intensive, they made me very uncomfortable. I didn't like them. A lot of my experiences that I've had in that realm make it to where I don't like that stuff. I've had things happen. I don't like that kind of stuff. It makes me very uncomfortable. But come like 2022, 2023, it was normal to me. I thought it was funny. I thought those very perverse, over-the-top sexual jokes and things like sodomizing one another and like rape jokes and all that stuff, I thought that it was like normal and funny to the point where I would be saying things that were not normal things to say to other people who were not in those spheres of comedy, right? Like I would like make a joke like that to like whatever, not a coworker, definitely not a coworker. Like, okay, yeah, not a coworker, but like, you know, maybe my mom or even worse. That's probably worse. That's probably even worse thing to say. I made a sex joke to my mom. This is my point, right? Like, it blurs the lines. It becomes an amorphous blob of like what you're consuming gets inside of you, okay? And I really think comedy podcasting has become a Trojan horse of decadence. It totally has been. And this is the archetype that I have founded, the Fool King. It is the Fool King. It is someone who heralds these ideologies and is someone who casts them, literally uses a podcast and casts them onto the audience. It's almost like a fool wizard, right? Now, the fool archetype traditionally is one that is completely different. The only reason I call it a fool king is because these people are foolish. It's more of a jester king. There was some kind of comments being nitpicky about my usage of the word fool, and I fully agree. Like, that's not a very good word. See, I'm so self-conscious about my fingers now because everybody's saying that when I do this, it means something. It doesn't. I'm literally we'll bring that one back. Where this idea really came from, there it is again. I'm doing an okay sign. Oh, that's even worse. You can't win, dude. This is why I love conspiracy people. You can't win. So where this idea started was I was watching this video by this YouTuber named Too Lazy to Try. Too Lazy to Try is a YouTuber, and he's very critical of the Rogan sphere and of comedians in general. I feel like this has become a new lane and a new avenue for content creators. Comedians are traditionally, and you know, even the jester archetype, not the fool archetype, very different things. The jester archetype and archetypally has been this kind of individual who heralds themselves on being critical of the king, of various things, right? They are one who mocks and one who critiques. Now, this is a very important position because being able to use the jester's delight, which is literally being able to tell the truth in a way that is critical of those in power, and it gets the truth across in this manner that is funny. So the truth doesn't hit so hard. And this is actually a way to bring revelation to those in charge, those in power. The king can reflect on these jokes, and maybe it sort of brings upon some sort of enlightenment to where things can change in a positive way, right? The jester is supposed to be a herald of the people, right? To where these hegemonic monarchy powers, king-like individuals don't always overstep. That's what the jesters become. But what we've seen with this fool king archetype and with the modern day Rogan sphere is they're literally friends with the president, right? They have become the very thing they were supposed to herald against. They've become the thing that they were supposed to protect the people against, right? They are the ones facilitating the political power. You could literally argue Joe Rogan probably got Trump elected. You could argue that, right? Now, the issue there is the people who are supposed to be funny, silly, and truth tellers then become these individuals who don't want to be criticized. Right? So this new sort of content creation with channels like Too Lazy to Try, like Elephant Graveyard, they have become the criticizers of the criticizers, right? And this creates almost this sort of meta cyclical like critique circle, right? And now the comedians are in this position where they were the ones who was doing the critiquing. If you don't know sort of like how critiquing works, being a critic is like a superpower, right? Because whatever you say becomes like the sort of zeitgeist for reality. Think about movie critics. People always go, oh, let's go look at Rotten Tomatoes to see if we should see this film, right? Think about Anthony Fantano. When he gives a score to an album, it sets the precedent for the score, for the album, to everybody who listens to it, right? That's what critiquing is. A critique is a superpower. So comedians naturally have a leg up on everything they do because they are criticizing the status quo. But what happens when those who criticize the status quo becomes the status quo? You then have to have someone fill that vacuum. It creates a vacuumous space, and YouTubers like Too Lazy to Try and these other people step in, which is great because nobody is above criticism, right? Nobody wants to be criticized, but nobody is completely above criticism. And this is an important distinction to make. Now, what happened, and when I was watching his channel, he released a video on Bert Kreischer. The machine. Now, some of you have been watching my channel or one of my older channels for so long that you might be familiar with my history with Bert Kreischer. And if you're not familiar with my history with Bert Kreischer, I will give you a quick rundown. So a couple of years ago, in 2023, I released a video with some friends of mine who we were working on some things. They're podcast producers in Los Angeles, and I was just getting sober, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, we shot a video called The Cyborg. He's the cyborg. I'm the cyborg. I'm the cyborg. 100%. That's how I got this watch, robbing the train in Russia. I'm the cyborg. Now, the video of The Cyborg was a critique of the machine. I was one of the early critics of Bert Kreischer, and I just didn't think he was funny. I thought that the whole machine bit was a bit overdone, and it just wasn't funny to me. So I made a video called The Cyborg. The video got a lot of views on Twitter. Before any of this other stuff started doing well, I had a Twitter account that was like very popular, okay? And I actually had made a conspiracy theory talking about how Bert is a Fed that amassed something like 2 million views. I said that Bert was working with the CIA. I talked about how Bert's father is a big-time lobbyist and actually has connections with the Church of Scientology and all this other stuff, which is all true, right? That being said, I made the Cyborg video, and what happened was the Cyborg video was released, and within like 30 minutes, I was removed from Twitter, and some of my tweets being critical of a specific group of individuals were spread to various other people, and I had these tweets that were reported, right? So Bert Kreischer basically got me kicked off of Twitter. Now, that being said, that is someone who is not a fan of criticism, because I made fun of him being the machine, and I made a video called The Cyborg. Whatever, right? I'm a cyborg! So naturally, I have a little more skin in the game than most people. I don't like Bert. Bert knows who I am. Bert doesn't like me. So it is what it is, right? Anyways, times move forward. I'm watching this Too Lazy to Try video, and he sort of lets everybody know what Bert is up to, because here's the deal. I don't watch podcasts anymore. I don't listen to podcasts. I don't really consume that type of media anymore. I will sometimes support like my friends' stuff. If they send me stuff, I'll check it out, give it a like, give it a quick little check out. But I don't watch Two Bears, One Cave. I don't watch Your Mom's House. I don't listen to the Danny Brown Show. I don't watch this stuff. Like I said, if it's a friend of mine and they have a great guest on, I might listen. But I don't consume that kind of content, because as we're going to discuss throughout this video, the media you consume becomes your reality. It not only becomes your reality, it becomes the lens in which you process objective reality. Reality is this objective truth that becomes digested by you, and it is interfaced through everything that you consume. Okay, more on that in a moment. But in this video, he highlights how far Bert has fallen and how far he has gone. And he's gone very far from what I remember like 4 or 5 years ago, right? Bert Kreischer has daughters who are probably 19, 20, 21, in that age range. And Bert was talking about how he was watching a woman breastfeed in public. Now, this is sort of a controversial topic in like feminist circles. Breastfeeding is not like a sexual thing, but Bert was making it a very sexual thing, saying it was hot, saying it was sexy. Mind you, he has daughters in that same age range. Very strange. He then goes on to discuss how Bert has been trying to become an OnlyFans pimp akin to Jack Doherty. Okay. In addition, Bert has asked his employees, not coworkers, his employees if they would make OnlyFans accounts in which he could manage them. This is insane. This is so next level decadence. I don't know how to process it. But wait, there's even more. There's more. Then starts talking about how watching pornography is how he gets a lot of his material for stand-up comedy. He then starts talking about all of these plans with Tom Segura, right? And I'm thinking, okay, this is a bit. Like, there's no way that he's actually thinking of managing OnlyFans girls. Like, there's no way, right? And then what happens is the bit is no longer shown to be a bit. He then talks about how he is receiving submissions from female fans to start and manage their OnlyFans careers. Basically taking these women and giving them access to their millions and millions of fans. And a woman submitted a video of her putting a Porosos bottle, which is their tequila or vodka brand, up her thing. Dude, what are you doing? Right? I mean, that's like that is a horrifying thing. So not only is Bert, this sort of hacky guy who just like does whatever he does. He takes his shirt off and he thinks it's the funniest thing on the planet. Now he's a Trojan horse for gluttony. I mean, let's really think about this here. Let's esoterically think about what this is. I forgot the most important and poignant detail here. And these are words out of Bert's mouth. he does not want an experienced individual, an experienced sex worker, right? So he talks about the woman who submitted the video of her shoving a bottle of their vodka up her private area. He was like, no, that's not enough. She's too experienced. I want someone who has never done this kind of thing before, so I can deflower her. This is a comedian, bro. I'm so sorry, dude. He has daughters that are this age, and I was shocked. I was honestly shocked because this is a level of, I mean that's like f***ed up. Like that's like mentally ill. That's like a level of decadence I can't even think of. Like you're in this position, the fool king position, the jester king position, to where you have fans who enjoy your content. You have fans who enjoy your comedy. Okay, whatever. Like, it's not my cup of tea, but you are someone who people herald. And now what you're doing is you are exploiting these individuals with this idea, this tantalizing idea of fame and money and attention, because you can use your audience now as the product, right? Like, really think about this here. And this is something, I'm going to share something with you. These people, this guy, Bert, views his audience as the product. You're not the consumer. You're the product. He is now turning you into not only the consumer, but a product. He is taking individuals from his fan base and then giving them back to his fan base as sexual objects. He is converting a woman, a being, and turning it into a literal sexual object, a sexual device that is not only bringing, sexual deviancy and sexual pleasure to an audience, but it has to go through his filtration system. It has to be someone he corrupts. It has to be someone who isn't so far gone yet. He wants to be the one who makes them gone. Do you know what kind of fucked up brain you have to do? Let's just say, for the sake of our argument, right? Let's just say we're playing devil's advocate. He wants to become an OnlyFans manager, okay? Then you would take workers who, know what they're doing. You wouldn't want to, get one that's, to ruin her, to corrupt her. Think of that fucking brain, that mindset, dude. And I thought to myself, if I watched this 5 years ago, I would think this was funny. If I watched this through the lens in which I saw the world years ago, I would think this was funny. That's what I thought. And I was scared of that idea. I was like, whoa, that is fucked up, dude. That is a fucked up way to think. Right? That's funny. And that last couple minutes spiel, people are going to say, I know they're going to say, it's not that big of a deal, dude. It's not that big of a deal. It's a bit for the show. Women can choose that if they want. Obviously, I know that. That is the very point. That is the very crux of what I'm saying, right? Human beings are these creatures. We are literally divinity. We really are. We're made in God's image. And if you don't even believe in God, okay, let's put that aside then. Think about what you are. Think about the complexity of the biological processes that go into what a human is. Think about the complexity of even the human eye. The human eye, if one cell is off during its formation in the womb, you will be born blind. Think about that. Think about what humans are capable of doing, the things we've done, the pure vitality that exists within our being, our essence, our soul. Even if you are somebody who is a Marxist materialist who believes there's nothing and you're just purely a sack of meat, I think that you could probably make the argument that people are worth a little bit more than being sexual objects to be exploited by an obese alcoholic comedian who is dying of liver cirrhosis, who is only trying to make himself live so he can be an orifice of alcohol consumption. I think we could all say that being human is an important thing, right? So to reduce that to it's just a bit is the very problem, right? That is the very issue. And injecting that level of decadence into society via this Trojan horse that is comedy podcasting is the very problem. Because it is changing the way you view things, like the vitality and vibrance and beauty of human life, as what Schopenhauer would call the primordial will. It is corrupting the primordial will, the being, everything, the very essence of what is human. That is their goal. Because if you think those kind of things are funny, you will not think it is a big deal when your rights are impeded upon and when things are being destroyed around you. Because if you can laugh at a woman shoving a product that she had to buy in order to submit a video to this person who might become her OnlyFans pimp, if you can't see that as being some sort of awful, decadent scheme that is leading to further corruption of society as a whole, I don't know if you're somebody who has enough of a soul to be watching my videos. I am somebody who I understand there's a time and place for jokes. I get it. I totally get it. There's a time and there's a place for it. And you can make the argument that during a comedy podcast, it's silly boy time and it's time to be silly Sallies. And we're all going to be little silly Sallies when we watch Two Bears, One Cave, right? But that carries over. That becomes the lens in which you view reality, okay? So let's get a little bit more philosophical and a little bit more esoteric with it.
He's the cyborg!
So this hedonistic debauchery, right? Let's look at it through one of the philosophers I really enjoy, and a philosopher who had a massive impact on me when I was in college. His name was Jean-Paul Sartre. I'm currently editing this video. It's 12:09 in the morning. I have never seen a photo of Jean-Paul Sartre. I always pictured him as like a gorgeous guy with like long hair because he was kind of a womanizer. This motherfucker looks fucked up. What the fuck? Now, Jean-Paul Sartre wrote a book called Being in Nothingness. And in Being in Nothingness, he discusses how objective reality, the objective truths around us, are still subject to subjective reality. Bro is seeing it all, like, out of each eye. I'm not doing the horns. Out of each eye. Literally. No wonder he was like, yeah, we see objective reality subjectively. He saw everything. He's beyond an apex predator. Right, so if I view this Sharpie, I have my own being thrown onto this Sharpie in the way I view it, right? If I'm colorblind, I will see this differently. Objective reality is still interpreted subjectively. And Jean-Paul Sartre would have some issues with Little Birdie Bye, okay? And what he would basically say was that these bits and these jokes are literally injecting decadence into a worldview, creating a value system that is completely awful. And that Bert's comedy in this way is not just an observation. No. He's not just observing things and observing reality and reporting it. He's actually constructing the very decadent fall that I'm talking about. It's a form of constructing it. He's creating it. He's literally creating it. And that is what this is, right? It is literally esoteric and metaphysical construction of the collapse of society. And if you think that that's a step too far or dramatic, it is, because reality is dramatic. This is where we're at right now, okay? This is where we are. Weak men create hard times. We're in the hard times, and they're going to get a lot harder over the next 10 years. Now, another interesting thing about what comedy does, and the byproduct of comedy in this way, is the Fool King, or rather the Jester King, as I'm kind of renaming this archetype I've found it, is the irony that they bring to the table is an irony that is one that is for the purpose of escaping accountability, right? When you look at things in this ironic lens, and everything is ironic in this like postmodern, everything is relative, moral relativism, it's a way for you to escape the accountability of the things that you're actually saying, of the things that your ideas and your silly little pedantic games are actually creating. You're escaping that accountability. And one thing that makes a strong, vital individual is someone who is accountable for their actions and has a responsibility and an integrity for that. Yes, I did that, and yes, it was wrong, and I apologize. Just like me. Sometimes I respond very harshly to comments. I take accountability for that. Right? I could do this big ironic game where I never admit that I'm ever wrong, and this seems to be exactly what a lot of these people are doing, and these comedians are doing, and this becomes a byproduct that is passed onto the consumer, because we are metaphorical sponges. We soak in this information, and we start to relay it. We start to relive it. This is a greater issue that expands into other forms of media, right? Every single person watching this video has seen a movie where for the next hour or two after they see the movie, they pretend in their head that they are one of the characters from the movie. Some people who are really autistic, this actually formulates their entire personalities, right? I remember when I was in high school, I had a friend who saw the movie Drive, and this kid wore a scorpion jacket and thought he was Ryan Gosling from Drive for the next 5 years, and he did not even have a driver's license. I was looking into the wrong camera the entire time. And this brings us to our next metaphysical quandary, that of Arthur Schopenhauer. Now, Schopenhauer is one of my favorite philosophers. He very much influenced Nietzsche, and he very much influenced this entire sort of like German philosophy that was like, I call it vitalism. It's not the correct term, but it's all about how reclaiming and being a strong, powerful being who understands their life force is powerful, right? And this is sort of what I'm trying to teach, right? And trying to show you. Because this channel is a discourse. This channel follows the timeline of as if it's coursework, right? You learn along with the videos, you learn the things I'm saying, and maybe you can incorporate parts of it into your life to improve it, hopefully. Hopefully it doesn't get worse, because that would be bad, right? I'm not trying to make people's lives worse. Now, earlier I said the word primordial will, and this is one of Schopenhauer's ideas. He talks about the primordial will. And the primordial will is basically this force within you that drives your very existence. It's the reason you get up in the morning. It's the reason you go to work. It's the reason that you are. It is a driver of being, okay? It is the driver of being. And what Schopenhauer would say in response to what it is that Bert is doing is that this is an example of primordial will gone fully unchecked, fully unchecked. Now, to Schopenhauer, the idea of the primordial will being something that drives you, it is supposed to be something that drives you into the highest realms of art, the highest realms of existence. Think about transcending, right? It's this idea of transcendence, right? You're transcending reality, creating something like the Mona Lisa, right? The Mona Lisa is a piece of art that transcends art itself. It transcends the artist. It will outlive Da Vinci. It outlives the name Da Vinci. The very name of it is transcendental. And the way Schopenhauer would view this sort of age of endless laughter, right? This podcasts everywhere. Everything's funny all the time. Isn't that ironic? Isn't that ironic? Isn't everything fucking ironic and funny? He would see this as a pure hedonistic hellfuck, basically. And it would be this horrific idea that will is devouring itself for fun. I mean, like, really think about that. Take that in for a moment. The will that drives your being consuming itself for fun, silly times. For fun, sillies. I'm going to have silly time with me and my boys. I'm 55 years old and I'm going to talk about poo-poo and pee-pee, caca, boo-poo. Isn't that fun? Isn't that fun that we're grown men talking about pee-pee, papa, poo-poo, cuckoo, caca? Isn't that fun? Isn't that a great way to spend your being and your your being, dude? I don't think people understand that. Your being. And when you think of it this way, right, that the primordial will is literally being consumed for fun. It's actually like a form of possession, right? You're possessed. You're literally possessed because your being is being burned like a gasoline for fun, right? Now let's think about the jesters and the DMT elves and the DMT realm, and let's talk about this possession a little bit more, right? And I think we're going to go do that over on the Patreon. I have 1 week free trials. You guys can see me over there. I'm doing one. I'm not doing magic woo-woo with my hands, okay? So I hope that you enjoyed this. Hopefully I wasn't too intense. No. You know what? I hope you thought I was intense, because I'm an intense guy. And I think it's time to be a little bit more intense, because we have decadence everywhere. It's all around us. And some of us need to be the people who herald in a new era. I'll see you on the Patreon. It's literally physically embodies taking the will of God and tarnishing it. It's disgusting. It's ruinous. It's awful. It's the worst thing I've ever could even conceive of in my life. Holy Spirit has really been activated on this video.